You are welcome this morning to this platform, Better-Fit Group of Schools, e-learning portal on the subject government, the class of Senior Secondary School 2 and Senior Secondary School 3 for those preparing for Senior Secondary Certificate exam, WAEC exams and ECO exams. Today we are taking the topic independence, the independence constitution. The independence constitution. Recall, we have gone through the pre-independence constitution of 1922 Clifford Constitution, the 1946 Richard Constitution. We said Clifford Constitution brought about regionalism. We said, brought about elective principle. We said the 1946 Constitution brought about the regionalism. We said the 1951 McPherson Constitution renamed the Central Legislative Council to the House of Representatives. We said 1954 Litoti Constitution brought about federalism in Nigeria, and thereafter there was a problem in the country that explained the weakness of the constitution that had been so far, especially the Litoti Constitution that was existing. So that was what led to the coupled with the agitation for self-rule. All of these led to the 1957 and 1958 London Constitutional Conferences that came to explain that the minority issue had to be resolved, the constitutional weakness had to be settled, and I said that independence of the country is something that cannot be done without that. It has to be given to be done. This 58 Constitution finally, Constitutional Conference was the last that we treated. Now we are talking about the 1960 Independence Constitution. Now, after this background to the Constitution of 1960, which is the 57th and 58th Constitutional Conferences, we are talking about what now transpired. What transpired was that 1960, a new constitution was given to the country, Nigeria, which we now call the Independence Constitution. What happened? How did the Independence Constitution become better than the Litoti Constitution of 1954? What difference did it provide? The differences are the features of the 1960 Independent Constitution. Number one, it established what we call a parliamentary democracy. Nigeria now became a parliamentary state by that 1960 Constitution. That gave rise to the position of the head of state different from the head of government. All right? The Queen different from the Governor General in the country. So a parliamentary democracy was established by the 1960 Independence Constitution. Number two, the Judicial Service Commission was established by the Constitution, and it was there to advise the government on judicial matters as well. Number three, there was what we call the independence of the judiciary. Funny enough, I think that was the major time it was stated in the constitution of the country, the first major time it was stated that the judiciary should be free from the control of the executive and legislature. Okay, the independence of the judiciary was stated there, and the judges were to be paid for what we call the consolidated fund. So that spoke a bit enhancement to their salary. Their money became a bit better to allow them to perform their operations, their activities free, without fear, without favor. All right? That was another attribute of the 1960 Constitution. Then you have the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council was to be the last appeal body in all judicial matter. The Privy Council, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council was to be the last court of appeal, if you don't like, for country Nigeria. So when anybody goes to any court of law in Nigeria and he or she is not satisfied, was not satisfied with the judgment that was meted to him or her, he still had opportunity of going to the Privy Council in London to seek for redress. Then that Privy Committee, Judicial Committee or Privy Council in London was taking the place of what we now have as the Supreme Court of Nigeria. So the 1960 Independent Constitution provided for that, and then all the region legislature were to be bicameral, were made bicameral legislatures. So that means the regions, the western region, the eastern region, the northern region, their legislatures, they were to have two chambers of legislature. They were to have two chambers, the upper chamber, the lower chamber, in the regions. Features of the 1960 Constitution. And then we have the constitution retained federalism, was still a federal state. Litote Constitution spoke federalism to Nigeria, and the 1960 constitution retained that federalism. It was still a federal state, and the special power was given consequent upon that on the federal government to take some decisions, to make some emergency, to use some emergency power. The part of it was in the concurrent list in the federal, in the federal list, we have the three lists that the constitution provided for. You have the exclusive list, you have the concurrent list, and then you have the residual list. The exclusive list was to be exclusively for the federal government. The federal government takes decisions on the exclusive list, such as issues that borders on security, that borders on national health, and so on and so forth. While concurrent list was to be list and functions performed by the regional government. So that became an issue. One of the issues and the weakness, reason for the weakness of the 54 constitution. The federal government could not even solve the issue on ground because the regional government had the power to legislate on regional levels, matter that concern regional level, which was a concurrent list. But in 1960 constitution, the constitution gave the federal government the right, the power to also interfere in regional issue. That whenever there is any case that list, that concurrent list, say whenever there is any case between the country and the region, where the federal government is interested, the state government is interested, whenever there is any conflict of interest, the federal government's decision on that issue take a supersession. So that was a provision, and then in addition, there was emergency power given to the federal government to declare state of emergency whenever necessary in the country. So these were part of the powers that were given by the constitution to the federal government, and then fundamental human rights were also entrenched in the constitution, and so on and so forth. These are some of the features and attributes of the 1960 independence constitution. But look at this very well, you're going to observe there are advantages and disadvantages in the constitution. Number one advantage of the constitution was that independence of the judiciary was granted and judges were to be paid from consolidated fund. Like I said, that gave the judges more salary, more income. It increased their income. That was to help them to perform their function without favor, without any form of partiality, which was to speak better and good for the country. And then number two, we have special powers that was given to the federal government to address whatever harsh situation the country was to face in future. And then you have the independence. For the first time, since 1922, the country had been agitating for independence. For the first time, Nigeria became independent. That became another respect, another advantage to the constitution. It granted Nigeria independence. And then we have bicameral legislature in all the region. Regional legislatures were made bicameral. And then fundamental human rights was given to Nigeria as it was entrenched in the constitution. That means formally Nigeria got fundamental human rights entrenched in its constitution. These are the little we can do for now, as time has permitted us. Meanwhile, as it concerns the 1960 constitution, I've said, given the background, which covered the 57 and 58 London Constitutional Conference, we've talked about the attributes, what the constitution did, brought about, the characteristics of the 1960 constitution, and then we talked about some of the advantages of the 1960 constitution. Your exercise now, your assignment for those of you in SS2 and those preparing for senior school certificate examination, what you should look for is the disadvantages, the weaknesses. If you don't mind, you can call it the case against, or the criticisms, or the weaknesses, or the disadvantages of the 1960 Constitution of Nigeria. This is a little you can take for now. The next time we meet, remain good. Thank you.